So many of you guys, if you have kind of low close rates, generally speaking, the biggest and the first problem that people point at is you have a sales problem, right? Which again, I'm not saying that for all of you guys that isn't the case. There are probably some of you guys that just need to improve your sales reps, but there are a huge amount of you, maybe not a majority, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's definitely a lot of you guys who are losing deals before you ever show up to the house, right? Your intake team or your contact center or your call center, whatever you guys call them, they are the first voice that a prospect is going to hear when they interact with your company across all of the leads, right? So if that individual sounds like an admin person and they don't have, sales training, or they don't kind of sound like a, professional salesperson that's going to help get these leads over the line and prep them, I promise you, a lot of your deals are dead in the water before you even get out there. So today we're going to talk about why that intake team or that call center team is so important and what you can do to prime them to be able to move your kind of company forward. So I've quite frankly found it strange always that a lot of owners will treat their kind of call center like kind of a customer service center rather than like an actual sales engine of their company. That first call, especially if you have speed to lead, right? We're talking PPC or lead aggregator leads. There is this kind of emotional transfer of when somebody fills out a form. We want to make sure that we, build on that momentum rather than losing it, right? And if we have poor intake teams or poor call center leads, we just kind of lose that momentum. We don't book as many meetings. The ones that we do book, they have lower show rates, right? And the example that I always give is that if you had a $40,000 kitchen or a $40,000 bathroom, a deal ready to go, you wouldn't send your worst sales rep there, right? So why would you have your least trained rep or your least sales trained individual taking the first call for that same $40,000 kitchen, right? It just doesn't really make any sense to me. And there are kind of three levers that a lot of people don't think about that actually impact your close rate at the end of the day. Building trust in the first 10 seconds of the call, right? Framing the visit that they're actually going to come out to is something that's going to be valuable, not just an opportunity to give them a price, but actually, provide, expertise and give them different options and maybe fix a problem that they have, right? That's going to impact your close rates. And then also, we need to make sure that we're securing buy-in, whether that means we're getting both decision makers that are committed, whether ready to show, whether it's just kind of building value of that visit. That is the intake team's job, right? Not just booking an appointment. And if they don't do those three things, I promise you, you could have the same sales reps. Close rate goes like this when that's done properly. So it's important that as part of that sales process, it's not just the in-the-house stuff that you're thinking about, but you think about the full sales journey and actually optimizing each stage of that with arguably the biggest piece, or if not the biggest piece, because look, I understand closing is closing, but one of the biggest pieces of that process is making sure that the initial contact is done correctly. So it's all good and well, all these ideas, but how do we actually do it? Well, the first thing, even though it sounds silly, is there needs to be a genuine mindset shift, right? Your intake team is your first sales rep. They need to be compensated that way. They need to be respected accordingly, right? Don't treat them like an admin person. If you do that, they're going to book like an admin person, right? So the first thing is that mindset shift and treating these people like salespeople. The second is having a actual built out call flow, right? The greetings on point, the, uncovering pain is on point, the close of the meeting is on point, making sure they know, what a qualified lead is. All of these things need to be, not just in place, but, really nailed down to be able to, have that shift from kind of that admin team to that sales team in the call center. The next thing is role play, right? Whenever you have sales reps, I hope that your sales reps are, role playing, going into the house and you're testing them through objections, right? Why wouldn't we do the same thing for the intake team? Make sure that we're, getting the common objections out of there. Hey, I'm just shopping, or, my spouse isn't actually going to be here, right? All of these things, we need to train them properly so that we can actually tackle these objections and get these bookings, qualified, and solidly booked into our calendars. And the last thing is making sure that we're tracking the data. How long did it take for us to get to first contact? What was our, contact rate to book rate? What was our book rate to show rate? What was our show rate to demo rate? Is that, tracked per rep, right? The same way that we have tons of data for sales reps, we need to have the exact same thing for our intake team. Again, the biggest mindset shift is taking our call center from an admin thing and treating it like a sales thing. And the second that we do that, our call center stops being a cost to the company and actually starts, seeing an actual ROI, right? That's how we need to treat it. How much money am I putting into my call center and how much money am I putting out? And the same way with a lead source, right? If you're doing Google Ads and you're getting tons of leads, you're going to put more money into it. The better that your call center is doing, the more leads you're able to generate and the more money that you're able to spend on your call center to be able to get these things in place so that you can actually continue that kind of a cycle of money in, money out, money in, money out, right? And speaking of money in, money out, what does it actually look like when you get this right? Well, again, show rates, they immediately climb up. Tons of companies have problems with one-leg appointments, right? If we can just have the right process in place, I promise you, that's not a problem for kind of well-oiled machines. Your sales reps are going to walk into more primed, higher quality homes. The sales rep on the front end is going to kind of, alley-oop, so to speak, the sales rep on the back end. You're also not going to feel like you're buying leads, right? Just leads that whether they work or not. If your call center is operating the right way, it feels very different. It's as if you're buying opportunities and your call center is protecting and enhancing those opportunities, right? That's what it should feel like when you have a call center, not just that you're going to Thumbtack, spending $2,000 in leads and kind of crossing your fingers that it's going to work, right? Because whether it's on Thumbtack, Houzz, Google, Facebook, in 2025, lead costs are on the low end for a qualified lead, $100 to $300 each, or in and around there, right? So if you just paid $250 for a lead to die on the first call, that's a huge waste of money, right? So the first thing that we need to fix is our intake team, right? Don't go and buy another $250 lead in the hope that it's better quality and it converts. You need to be able to start converting the ones that you've already bought, that you didn't take through the right process, and make sure that the future ones that you get are going to actually close. And you do that by training your intake staff like they're closers, not treating them like they're admin, right? And that is where a huge amount of your margin as a company, if you're somebody who is taking home a net margin of 5%, I promise you have a ton of leakage in your call center that you do not see show up on the P&L sheet. I promise you that. So the biggest takeaway from this all is that your admin team isn't the same as your intake team, right? That this is a sales unit, right? And you need to train them in that way. Now, the reality is that a lot of people aren't going to have the time to be able to do that, which I completely understand, which is exactly where we can come in and help. We work with home improvement companies, specifically in the remodeling space primarily, have a call center that runs both inbound and outbound coverage so that every single lead that you have gets worked the right way, right? So if you want help building that system, feel free to reach out. I'll kind of walk you through the different strategies that we can go through to be able to help, implement into your company and start increasing, close rates and ROI and all these things. But even if you're not interested in that at the moment, feel free to subscribe to the page. We go through tons of videos like this that are going to help you improve your own systems. So again, thank you for being on this video and I'll see you guys in the next one.